We had the best time doing the initial breakdown of the body language and behavior in this video, and we decided we'd revisit some of our favorite moments from it.
I need you to brace yourself because the allegations you're about to hear are pretty intense.
My nightmare last night, it was similar to other things that happened to me growing up.
What was the nightmare last night?
My father was holding me down.
Jesus Christ, come on.
That happens again and again and again. When I was 8 years old, my father started to come into my room at night. I was physically hurt, and I can't tell mommy what happened.
She never called me mommy. She always called me mom.
She'll get mad at me. That's what I was told.
Wow. Wow.
Do you have any thoughts about watching her, seeing her in this light, telling her version of events?
It hurts.
What she's saying is what you did to her
I know.
was so horrid that she repressed it.
Yeah, I know what that is. It's a good fabrication on her part. First thing is, I know she's lying. You know she's lying. For all the years she lived in this house with us, we were always happy with each other.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So look, let's talk a little bit about filmmaking. Filmmaking for me and filmmaking of drama is all about reactions, not necessarily who's doing the action, but how everybody else is reacting to that. And it just so happens in this particular case that we've got some really interesting, I would say, filmmaking going on, really dramatic filmmaking. It's less of a documentary for me and turns out to be more of a dramatic film. We get the reaction there of the interviewer. I think we see from him real sorrow as he looks at the father and sees the father's reaction to the daughter accusing. Real sorrow from him. He turns to the wife, the father, and says,
You know she's lying.
and it cuts to the reaction of the wife, and it's deadpan. There's nothing there. There's no like, yeah, absolutely, and there's no, not at all. Nothing happens there. So, I mean, an interesting collage of reactions. But here's the thing. There's no panning of the camera. I have no idea if that interviewer's reaction was the reaction that was at the time. I have absolutely no idea if the wife's reaction is the reaction at the time. Yep. Zero idea what's going on because it's cut, and it's all about filmmaking and dramatic reactions. So what do I think's going on here? Some really good dramatic filmmaking is going on. But what do I know to be true about their nothing at this point from their reactions, and it's mainly about the reactions, not about the subjects. Chase, what do you think? What do you got on this one?
Yeah, I completely agree. I do not think that was a normal human reaction that the wife had, so I don't think that was a part of that same timestamp either. This clip on the TV shows what I think is an incredibly stunning lack of feeling and a very vivid display of someone seeking reactions from the audience instead of recalling memories. When I heard the mommy comment,
And I can't tell mommy what happened.
this was instantaneous. It hit me in the gut. That this one seemingly small comment from the mother here is enough to make all of my hair stand up this morning.
She never called me mommy. She always called me mom.
And if the word mommy was interjected here just to make it seem more innocent and more like a childhood memory, then this is next level illness. And the mom is playing with jewelry. Here, you see her doing that during the video. Women are more likely than men to reach up for a necklace or a bracelet. Research shows us that women are more likely to associate jewelry with identity. So this is why you're more likely to see that there. But the father says a phrase that really stood out to me.
It's a good fabrication on her part.
What? I thought this was bizarre to see someone complimenting the degree to which their daughter can lie and manipulate. And this is followed by a strange confirmation-seeking glance and a question to his wife, like looking over, like, you agree with me, right? And his behavior is uncomfortable here watching the clip. I might attribute some of this to the camera, some to the fact they've probably seen this video before. I mean, it's been out there, and maybe they're being told, hey, you know what? This is TV, so I want you to pretend and react to this like it's your first time. So maybe they're going through that. And I think there's a lot of editing here, but I thought happy with each other.
We were always happy with each other.
I think that was an unusual choice of words. Scott, what did you see?
All right. Yeah, I agree with you. The editing on this is atrocious. I'm under the impression they've got a story they want to tell. We were talking a little bit before this, and Mark and I were saying the same stuff about the editing. It's questionable. But if we look at this from, let's say, a profiler's perspective, let's take a look at their clothes. They're dressed super casually, like this guy just happened to show up with a film crew. I mean, he's wearing a golf shirt and shorts. She's wearing like some kind of a top you'd wear at Target when you're out shopping and you don't have anything planned or anything going on. They're really in relaxed mode. She's not wearing makeup. And another thing is they're both really still. They stay fairly still during this, which is understandable because there's a lot of information coming in, whether they've seen it or not before. I would guess they haven't seen it because of how still they're being, and they're really focused on the screen, on the television. So I'm under the impression they probably haven't seen it. But then again, you never know. Like you're saying, Chase, you never know with things like this. From what we've seen, these clips, it could all be a setup. But George starts adapting with his hands. You can see that going up. Of course, that's normal because he's under a lot of stress. When she says,
She never called me mommy. She always called me mom.
George purses his lips while he's adapting. Another thing that's interesting is when someone's mouth goes down the sides like that, it's hard to do. But that usually indicates that there's extreme emotional distress there. But they both have fairly blank expressions the whole time, which is a little bit odd because you'd think you'd see a lot of anger and a lot of concern. Not a whole lot of that. It's a lot of the eyebrows up, request for approval, which is a little bit odd, or a blank stare. But all of this stuff still, again, suggests psychological discomfort. So obviously they wouldn't like this. You wouldn't like this. Nobody would. But I think that's what's happening. When the interviewer says,
Watching her, seeing her.
we see a micro expression of pursed lips, and then a full-blown expression of what I call stress mouth or compressed lips.
It hurts.
This indicates a great deal of stress as well. So at the same time, we see that those eyebrows up for a request for approval, which is something Greg coined. Why don't you explain request for approval?
Yeah, well, all it simply means is I'm looking for your approval. I may say, hey, this catfish was this big. I could be lying. I could be telling the truth. But what I'm after is approval. And what you're looking for is when it is used. It's, this is the way we communicate with other people. So we're sending a signal, hey, you get it, don't you? Or, hey, believe this, don't you? That's what I mean by it.
Yeah.
As you know, on this channel, I'm an expert in analyzing signals, how to tell if someone's comfortable, if they're hiding something, or if they're truly on your side, because you want to feel safe. But when I walk into a doctor's office, I'm not the expert anymore. I'm a patient, and I'm looking for one thing: safety too. Some doctors, they don't make eye contact. They're on their computer the whole time. Their shoulders are hunched. And if that's the case, my limbic system, my brain's alarm bell goes off just like yours. I don't feel heard. I feel like a number. I want to feel seen. And that feeling is crucial for all our health. So how great would it be if you could vet your doctor before you walk in the door? And that's exactly what you can do with our sponsor today, ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a completely free website where you can search for high-quality doctors and then check out their verified patient reviews. You can read exactly how other people experienced that doctor's bedside manner before you commit, and you get a sense of the person behind the stethoscope. Plus, you get to see their actual appointment openings. There's no guesswork, no awkward phone call where you're put on hold. You just click and you book. Now, ZocDoc has over 100,000 providers, from primary care to dentists to therapists, and it's fast. You can usually get in within, 24 to even 72 hours. Sometimes it's even the same day. So look, please stop ignoring the signals your body is sending you and find a doctor who makes you feel safe. Go to ZocDoc.com/TBP. The link is right down there below in the description, and book a top-rated doctor today. today.
So then the mother, her name is Cindy, she continues on with this like a blank stare, like she's taking in all this information. And it's that look you have where you know it's building up inside him. So I don't know, she's a powder keg or whatever, but she doesn't look like somebody you'd want to mess with or you get on the wrong side of. But I think we're seeing a lot of inner dialogue with her as she's listening to this and thinking, she never said mommy. I bet she couldn't wait to say that or bring that out. But overall, I think this shows a lot of psychological discomfort here. Greg, what do you got?
Let's talk about dynamic. I was talking to Pyle one day and I was saying, what's interesting about interrogation is we're a little bit of statement analysis, we're a little bit of body language, we're a little bit of behavior profiling, we're a little bit of all that. But it's all at one time. When you're standing in front of someone, all this stuff is working at absolutely the same time. So you have to look at everything, at the personal dynamics and all these pieces. So let's look at this. Let's first start with the simplest. And Chase, I agree with you and with all of you. Mommy, this mommy thing, it's not just the word mommy, it's the cadence. It's the pitch. It's the tone. Everything about it is out of whack. It's orphaned. Listen to Casey Anthony going, bada, bada, bada. Mommy, and she slows down as she says it.
I was physically hurt, and I can't tell mommy what happened.
It's orphaned, it's alone. So you, as a person listening to someone at work or on a phone call or something in the background, you don't need to see someone to listen for a change in verbal, meaning choice of words, mommy, not mother, not mom. Looking for a difference in vocal, the pitch, tone, or cadence slowed and changed. All of those things tell you something is wrong. So we don't need to hear the word mommy, but we do. And we hear it orphaned, so we immediately say something is wrong with that. Now, her mom says...
She never called me mommy. She always called me mom.
Well, there's a good tell right off. Let's talk about dynamics. There's clearly, these are not lovey-dovey. This is not the place you're going to go and see kumbaya between these two people. If you watch this show, you'll see there's a fair amount of dysfunction between these two. And if you want to see what dysfunction looks like, just get to where he's in the car and being asked questions about their relationship. Let's say Chase and I have bad blood. Do I go, Chase, I didn't do that? Never. You're going to try to hedge at every corner. You're not going to throw yourself to the hounds with the person sitting right next to you who might throw it back at you.
She's lying.
So there's one good indicator he's being honest. There's also a couple of others. I think this guy's jittery. He's had a really severe automobile accident where he's in a halo for months. He was rolled a car a bunch of times and that kind of stuff and was lying there for a while. So I don't know what part that plays because I don't know his baseline before that happened, but he's certainly an apprehensive kind of fella. If you want to know when he's watching this, whether it's for the first time or the ninth, he's apprehensive. He's got his hands crossed and he's milling his fingers. I call that sacred space. I'm making a space that I own and making it comfortable by doing something I always do. When she starts to talk, you see him do that eye roll and that exasperated breathe out.
Jesus Christ, come on.
That's a great indicator that he is upset about something. Now, what's interesting is we'll see it play out even more as we go. But he does that wow internal voice.
Wow.
If you're busted for something, you typically don't throw your chin out when you're busted. You typically lower your chin, protect your throat, or do something like that. We don't see it. We see him throw his chin up. He huffs in exasperation, closes his eyes. That to me looks like frustration. And then the comment hurts.
It hurts.
You said lip compression. Scott, I agree with you. That is the profound lip compression. It's not a quick compression. It's closed. I see people do that all the time to control emotion. And then when he looks over at his mother and there's just that cold, deadpan face. Wow, I'm with you, Mark. I sure don't want to go there. This is a good start.
One of those tape replays.
I need you to brace yourself because the allegations you're about to hear are pretty intense.
My nightmare last night, it was similar to other things that happened to me growing up.
What was the nightmare last night?
My father was holding me down and raping me.
Jesus Christ, come on.
That happens again and again and again. When I was 8 years old, my father started to come into my room at night. I was physically hurt, and I can't tell mommy what happened.
She never called me mommy. She always called me mom.
She'll get mad at me. That's what I was told.
Wow.
Do you have any thoughts about watching her, seeing her in this light telling her version of events.
And it hurts.
What she's saying is what you did to her
I know.
was so horrid that she repressed it.
Yeah, I know what that is. It's a good fabrication on her part. First thing is, I know she's lying. You know she's lying. For all the years she lived in this house with us, we were always happy with each other.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. And I wished I had siblings.
So before she met Harry, you had no doubt she was your sister.
I called her my sister. My little sister, though, I said, if there was any descriptive qualifier. She was my little sis.
I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be pregnant, so that Archie has someone.
Because she was quite clear. In her mind, she didn't have a sister, didn't have a brother.
But she did.
I remember when she was born, big new addition to the family, and we just have a very young sister here.
Thomas Jr. was 14 when Meghan came into the world. During the Oprah interview, when Meghan said she had no siblings, when she told the world she was an only child, I mean, were you disappointed?
No, I just made a little mark on my board and said, oh, there's another lie, click.
Were you puzzled?
Not any more puzzled than I was when she said, I lost my father.
There's a lot that's been lost already. And I grieve a lot. I mean, I've lost my father.
We knew that she didn't lose our dad. She iced our father. And there's a very big difference. It was deliberate.
All right, Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, let me first frame this just a little bit. Now we're talking about age difference. So let's give Meghan the benefit of a doubt and say what she means versus what the words say. I didn't have a sister doesn't necessarily mean I didn't have a biological genetic connection. Might mean there's nobody in my house. I will tell you, my youngest brother is 11 years younger than I am. And he would tell you the first thing he remembers about me is music from under my door, and then I'd moved away, because that's a big difference. By the time he really was cognizant, I joined the Army and gone away. And so there's a dramatic difference. And he's 7 years younger than my other brother. So you're in a different space. I've read before that 7 years is enough to make a youngest child feel like an only child. I'll leave it at that. Give her a benefit of a doubt there. The other piece to realize is this woman was then 16. At the time they split, at the time the parents split, this woman, Samantha, would have been 22 years old, for example. So there's a big difference there. So take that into account as you're thinking about it. Watch Meghan as she starts with a disclaimer when she says,
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows.
She does a vocal fry, which she has naturally, but this is pronounced. Her chin goes down, maybe it's apprehension, and she adapts on that left ring finger. So there's some interesting things going on with her. Then Samantha, of course, now we see that biological or emulation behavior as that one brow rises when she's showing skepticism. We saw that the same thing in the dad when we began. Here's an interesting note. Each of you try to raise your one brow and then pay attention to your contempt face. It's almost always on the opposite side. I've never seen it both on the same side, as interesting as that is. And I think the reason is because we can show skepticism and contempt at the same time, and it probably wouldn't work that way. And so I think our body just gets accustomed to whatever it does. Pay attention to people around you as you're seeing this. It's an important one. She's a little smug as she responds to this question, meaning Samantha, as she responds to the question about her sister. She does a little bit of that looking down her nose smug thing with the engaged upper face and the straight lower face. And then she goes and says, I called her my sister with amusement in her eyes. The brother, who says he was 14 at the time, at the mention of Oprah, awaits kind of apprehensively. If you notice, his mouth is in intake. He's pulling back the sides of his mouth and his tongue juts. I think that's apprehension as to what Oprah said or what was said on Oprah, whether he watched it or didn't, don't know. But the minute he realizes what the question is going to be, watch that brow rise in understanding of what they're talking about, in recognition. This is a useful thing for you at work. When you're sitting talking to somebody and they're withdrawing their mouth in apprehension about something, but then their brow rises, you've gotten through to them. It's important for you to know. But he uses very specific words. This makes me start to think, there's some baggage in this family, and we're not talking about baggage today. This is not about today. This is about some time ago, and it just happens to be playing out today. Big new addition to family. His whole body narrates. He shifts and eye blocks when he says it. His body shifts and he eye blocks. he slows his cadence and elongates pronunciation as he says,
big new addition to the family. And we just have a very young sister here.
Big, new, very young sister here. When I hear something that pronounced, I always think of Aaron Caffey, kill my parents.
Kill my parents.
That pronounced difference makes me want to know what's going on. There's lots of ways that old stuff can come up, and I think that's what we're starting to see. There's some underlying cause here. Scott, what do you got?
All right. I think she opens up with that I landed on the moon energy, or she seems a little bit too confident. And her confidence for me is so extreme, I'm not comfortable with believing what she says. And the emotions she's supposed to be experiencing at this point. So that kind of bothers me. Anytime I see that and I'm talking to somebody, if I'm talking to somebody that's done something they shouldn't have and they start that, then it's a big red flag. But in a situation like this, it's still a red flag because it doesn't feel right. I know she's got a couple of problems with it, a couple of problems. The big one, MS is huge. But she's got a situation there where she can't express herself as freely as I'm sure she'd want to. But man, she's opening that one up with the confidence of, out the wazoo. I'll just say that. And then we see more of the those exaggerated facial expressions, and we're seeing everything from the wide eyes to the illustrating with her head, that chin back, everything you were talking about, Greg. And then she cuts into that vocal fry when she's talking about her little sister.
My little sister, though, I said.
Personally, I've seen this in TV shows or movies where the person is trying to, it all of a sudden cuts to them. It's the beginning of the movie or the TV show, and they're riding in a car doing something, or two people together, and one has to say the other, so you'll know what's happening. We've done this since we were little sis, or since we were young, little sis. So they have to call them little sis. I've never heard anybody call anybody little sis. Have you guys heard that before?
That was my nickname for you, Scott.
That's right. I saw 2 of your shows at down at the Chuckle Hut, and I thought you were fantastic. I've got tickets to the next one, and hopefully I'm going to I'll get the VIP thing where I can meet you and shake hands in person.
There's your 5 minutes.
Yeah. So, but I've never heard anybody call their sister little sis.
She was my little sis.
It's like the L-I-apostrophe-L, lil sis. Man. So that sounds, it's just starting to smell to me. I thought I really didn't like Megan very much. And I'm beginning to think I don't like this woman very much either. So I'm wondering if I'm not going to like them both equally. I'll not like them both equally, however you'd say that grammatically correct. Then she fades out of that vocal fry, and she starts talking about, what does she talk about where it cuts, Mark? And you can see the cut in there. Mm-hmm. I don't have that written down on here. But with that, we see that open mouth, which she's taking in information, and almost like she's not startled, but she's like, what? That kind of thing. And then we hear the vocal fry again. But when she says, but she did, like that. But when we're seeing confirmation nods, I'm not so sure their relationship was as tight as she's coming on as it was when they were younger. That's the feeling I'm getting at this point. There'll be women watching this that will get the same feeling from that, I think, because they can watch things and get a different, their brain takes in information differently than guys does. It takes in a whole lot more, and it can decipher what's happening much more quickly than we can. And that's why they get women's intuition. You just get a gut feeling. So I think there are going to be a lot of people out there that feel that way as well. And the micro expressions we're seeing are triggered by, I think, suppressed feelings as well, of anger and probably resentment and frustration, because we're seeing a lot of that going on, a lot of changes, a lot of things happening in there. And like I said before, whether it's because of her neurological deficits or it's because she's actually experiencing all those emotions, I don't know. I can't tell. I really can't tell. But I think there's a whole lot happening here emotionally. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah. So look, be careful in this one, because this is a beautifully crafted, put together argument. I love this show, by the way, and I love that interviewer. I can't remember his name, but I think he's Ian. Yeah, he's done some great shows and he's a great interviewer. And this show is beautifully put together. But to beautifully put something together, you have to miss out a lot. You have to put a lot on the floor. A lot of it has to go missing. And so, look, here's what we get here. This is a complex situation, but what we get from the female here, the sister, is that iconic eyebrow raise. It is so clear. It is so enormous. that it becomes not just a physical gesture, it's that icon of question, doubt, uncertainty. You know, that a big frame of question, doubt, uncertainty. And then we cut immediately to Meghan Markle, who is doing another big iconic gesture of throat back, hands forward, so face to the heavens, exposure here, which either is the extreme release of stress, big stress building up and releasing that, or extreme arrogance. Well, which one is it? Well, it fits better with this story if it's extreme arrogance. It's a nicer piece of drama if it's a piece of arrogance. So we're more likely to veer to, well, that's a bit arrogant going on there, because we had the questioning iconic eyebrow raise beforehand. So beautiful juxtaposition put there by the video makers, the TV channel. Is the TV channel here trying to solve a disagreement or promote a disagreement and maybe, you know, keep it going a little bit? Like, well, they've got to sell advertising space. So my money would be on, they're not trying to solve anything here. They're trying to prolong it. So we've got to understand that as well. I'm not saying that there's no disagreement there, but I am saying that this documentary will try and create and prolong it more than anything else. Greg, to your point of how complex these situations are. So I was 13, 14 when I got my little brother. And so for me, from my point of view as a 14-year-old, I had, you know, that was like having a child. That was huge responsibility, huge bond. However, I then went to university at 18. There's every good reason that he would feel abandoned when I'd left. Every good reason for that feeling of abandonment, because a key adult has just, boom, disappeared, gone, living somewhere else now. So it's complex, isn't it? Because what you feel isn't necessarily what they're feeling, and your actions, though they feel right to you at the time, you don't necessarily know at the time what it does to another human being at a key point in their life, 5, 6 in their life. So, and again, you know, that isn't brought up. Only one aspect, one angle is brought up here. Let's see how it progresses. Chase, what do you got on this one?
We've analyzed some bad people that I think I would still rather hang out with than Meghan. That's all I got. I'm kidding. So you can tell
she's not going to hang out with us.
Yeah. No, she's not coming in, dude.
You can tell a lot about somebody's internal drivers by how they get upset and what they get upset with. Some might detach emotionally from an issue, like you're seeing with Meghan's brother here, and some might feel anger and contempt, like you're seeing with the sister. So detaching emotionally from an issue might imply that somebody's hurt by it, and they develop the detachment in order to soften the emotional pain. Seeing contempt and anger toward the same behavior probably means somebody was hurt, past tense, and then transitioned into anger because of a betrayal, social injury, which means that they were made to feel socially embarrassed or isolated or outcast. And I'm waiting to see on this one, I was waiting to see Mark's comment on iced and the metaphor of coldness, this idea of cold and the winter. I was hoping for that.
I'll let you tell you took it very well.
All right. The Ice Queen. So, pro tip number 2, malignant narcissists are often exhibiting a pretty strong sense of entitlement, and they believe they kind of deserve special treatment or admiration. In this context, they may view their newfound wealth and fame as a validation of superiority and might discard their family because they believe they've outgrown them, or that their family is no longer worthy of their attention at all.
One of those tape replays.
I grew up as an only child, which everyone who grew up around me knows. And I wished I had siblings.
So before she met Harry, you had no doubt she was your sister.
I called her my sister. My little sister, though, I said, if there was any descriptive qualifier. She was my little sis.
I would have loved to have had siblings. That's why I'm so excited to be pregnant, so that Archie has someone.
Because she was quite clear. In her mind, she didn't have a sister, didn't have a brother.
But she did.
I remember when she was born, big new addition to the family, and we just have a very young sister here.
Thomas Jr. was 14 when Megan came into the world. During the Oprah interview, when Megan said she had no siblings, when she told the world she was an only child, I mean, were you disappointed?
No, I just made a little mark on my board and said, oh, there's another lie, click.
Were you puzzled?
Not any more puzzled than I was when she said, I lost my father.
There's a lot that's been lost already. And I grieve a lot. I mean, I've lost my father.
We knew that she didn't lose our dad. She iced our father. And there's a very big difference. It was deliberate.
But then things got a lot more sinister, didn't they? And just explain the frightening things that you woke up to and the things that she began to do.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, absolutely. So after that day, when we had the play date with another girl with the exact same kind of dwarfism that Natalia had, and supposedly at the exact same age, you knew immediately these two people were nowhere near the same level of maturity. And then when the Ukrainian woman began speaking to Natalia in what was supposed to be her native language, which Natalia has never had an accent her entire life, she got very angry and very upset and began to lash out. The first steps were smaller. She would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs. So when we would walk up and down stairs, we would be stepping on thumbtacks. Certain things would start to become missing in the home. We would find knives under her bed. And then after a short time, there was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand, very blank look on her face, and she's just standing there with a knife. Shortly thereafter, she began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner. My wife, Christine, would take the entire family, my 3 sons, along with Natalia, downtown to university. My oldest son was attending university at a young age, so the entire family went. And as they would be crossing a street, Natalia had already found something that meant something very important to each of my boys. My youngest son, who was 6, was into cows, so she found his favorite cow toy. My 9-year-old son liked cars, so she found his favorite car toys. And my 11-year-old son was attending university, so she had gotten his homework out of his backpack. As they would be crossing a very, very busy street, she would make sure that the boys were paying attention, and she would launch everything up into the air, into traffic. Now, Holly, to you and I, if something important to us is going into traffic, we simply know, oh, that's gone. I'm not going to have that anymore. But to a 6-year-old boy, a 9-year-old boy, an 11-year-old boy, that's the most important things in their lives. Yeah. All they know is they are losing it, and they must run after it immediately, and they would instantly run into traffic to try to retrieve their items.
That's frightening.
Immediately thereafter, Natalia would simply tell us very coldly and very directly, I'm trying to kill the boys.
Chase, what do you got?
So one thing we see here during these pivotal moments when he's talking about how he felt is this downright eye movement, which we associate with it, recalling emotional events and emotional memories. But then later on, he's talking about the thumbtacks on the stairs and the bedroom scenario.
She would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs. There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed.
And his eyes are moving in multiple directions, which indicates that he's probably being mostly truthful here. And I think this is genuine recall. The way that he's describing it, for most of this stuff, I maybe saw 1 or 2 things that we might call a deception indicator. They didn't occur in heavy context. They didn't occur in a cluster. And based on what was being said at the time, especially in here, it was irrelevant, a detail, even if there was a cluster around it. So, yeah, I think this is mostly honest. Mark?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with you there. I think there's some information in there which is most likely happened. What's interesting for me is the huge dramatization of it. Yeah, he's on a TV show and it's got to be a good story. But why do you need to tell this story? What else is going on? What position have you got yourself into that you need to go on? Not only British TV, but my guess is he's not doing the rounds somewhere and telling this story internationally, I would imagine, because why show up in the UK for it? He must be doing it everywhere right now. Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely, he says.
Oh my goodness, yes, absolutely.
and that frames beautifully the high drama of this. I get the stuff about throwing stuff in the road.
And she would launch everything up into the air, into traffic.
There's somebody there who is really testing the boundaries, being utterly precocious and malicious, no doubt. As can often happen in foster homes. I mean, it's the usual thing. The thumbtacks.
She would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs.
Well, look, my kids have been leaving Lego around. And so, I mean, the amount of times I have almost died due to stepping on, or it felt like that at the time, or, I lost my footing and almost did, hit my head on a glass coffee table, which could have seen my complete demise. But am I really going to, call them sociopathic nightmares because they leave, Lego or thumbtacks the wrong way? Of course they do. The moment, if your kid has got hold of thumbtacks, I'll tell you exactly what is going to happen. You are going to step on one. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Okay. So don't have them in the house if you have kids. The knife story.
We would find knives under her bed. Talia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand, very blank look on her face. And she's just standing there with a knife.
I'd be saying, look, tell me more about that, because I want to know the exactitude of that. All these knife stories, that's important. You got a kid with a knife, at the end of your bed. Like, give me the detail on that one. Well, then we get the revelation, my 11-year-old son who was attending university. Okay, so if that is accurate, then we have somebody who is savant, who is a genius. Okay. Is this his genetic son? Because if this is his genetic son, then most likely he himself is on the spectrum as well. Okay. So now we've got a potential for a neurotype here, which helps us understand why he might be showing some of these behaviors, possibly, but also this, what seems to me an interesting mentality around already knew a family who had a child with the same growth condition, responds very quickly to getting a child with that condition. So now we've got an extraordinary 11-year-old, and now we've got an extraordinary new kid, which fits in with somebody else's extraordinary child. Well, there's an interesting kind of gathering, collecting in some ways of extraordinary people in this story, and I find that extraordinary, because it's not a collection. I mean, I collect, believe me, I collect, but not in this kind of way. Interesting. Scott, where you go on this one?
Yeah, I think the knife story, I don't think that happened. I really don't. I mean, it just sounds like that wouldn't happen. Little kid coming in there on the little walker she'd have to have, and then having a knife and stand there with it with a blank look on her face. No, for me, I'm not buying that one. And so how's she going to launch all their toys out in the middle of the road? She's with that disability. I think it'd be kind of tough to gather those up. How does she get them from if they're their favorite things? Here, let me have that little cow. Let me have this. Let me have that. And then throws them in the street. I think that would be kind of tough for her. So I don't think she can be launching anything with that disability. Maybe one thing, but I mean, she's going to have, he makes it sound like it's everything at once. So the kids are run out in the street. I don't see that happening.
Immediately thereafter, Natalia would simply tell us very coldly and very directly, I'm trying to kill the boys.
And if she did say, I'm trying to kill the boys, maybe she was being sarcastic. Maybe she did say that. But maybe she's saying, I'm trying to kill the boys. Maybe it was something like that, because I just don't, that this doesn't ring true. It's about 50-50 in there for me. I mean, half of it sounds true, half of it doesn't. Half of it sounds deceptive. Greg, what do you got?
So a couple things, and I'm not trying to be funny here, but if I had somebody who was that height in my house who threatened me with a knife, I would put the knives up higher. She can't climb. Simple. I would stop that problem right there. It gets repeated here with these guys, though, for some reason. Okay, that's just a logic equation for me. But these guys are blustery. And when I say blustery, everything is giant. Mark, you would have fallen and hit your head and just barely survived it if you were him, because everything they say, she's standing over my bed.
Natalia was standing over my bed.
Again, this is big language. This is language that really doesn't fit the situation. And when he talks about thumbtacks, is the first time we see his chin drop and cover his throat.
She would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs. So when we would walk up and down stairs, we would be stepping on thumbtacks.
Suspicious to me. It's the beginning of clusters. It's not a full cluster, but his behavior is so really up and down. And then he does a chin down at night again.
There was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night.
Okay. Why? Why is the chin down twice and it hasn't done anything like that now? Then you see that kind of face of persuasion, Mark, you did it earlier when you're thinking. You're looking like that. Narrowing of his eyes, a quicker nod as he creates this rambling.
She began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner.
Not tried to kill my kids. The chin is no longer up now. And then he changes cadence. And for the first time, he does an in-breath and goes, as he starts to describe her throwing toys in the road. Those are changes and deviations in baseline that we've seen up to now. Don't know why. But then he uses chaff and redirect to get back.
My oldest son was attending university at a young age, so the entire family went.
Now he's going to talk about his son so he can have a way to get his story out and still have a way to get back to something if he needs it. That's my opinion. I don't think this happened the way he said it. I think, yeah, Chase, were there attacks on the thing? Yeah, maybe. Did she have a knife? Did she say, I'm going to kill you guys if you keep doing this to me? Maybe. Probably. Could happen. Anger, all that kind of thing. And if your brain works like these people apparently do, me saying I'm going to kill you with this knife is the same as me holding it to your neck. So, everybody's a little different, but I think they aggrandize what's happening and they're more blustery than most of us would be. All I got.
Totally. But then things got a lot more sinister, didn't they? And just explain the frightening things that you woke up to and the things that she began to do.
Oh, my goodness. Yes, absolutely. So after that day, when we had the play date with another girl with the exact same kind of dwarfism that Natalia had, and supposedly at the exact same age, you knew immediately these two people were nowhere near the same level of maturity. And then when the Ukrainian woman began speaking to Natalia in what was supposed to be her native language, which Natalia has never had an accent her entire life, she got very angry and very upset and began to lash out. The first steps were smaller. She would put thumbtacks face up on our stairs. So when we would walk up and down stairs, we would be stepping on thumbtacks. Certain things would start to become missing in the home. We would find knives under her bed. And then after a short time, there was a moment when I woke up in the middle of the night and Natalia was standing over my bed with a knife in her hand, very blank look on her face, and she's just standing there with a knife. Shortly thereafter, she began to attempt to harm my sons in a very serious manner. My wife, Christine, would take the entire family, my 3 sons, along with Natalia, downtown to university. My oldest son was attending university at a young age, so the entire family went. And as they would be crossing a street, Natalia had already found something that meant something very important to each of my boys. My youngest son, who was 6, was into cows, so she found his favorite cow toy. My 9-year-old son liked cars, so she found his favorite car toys. And my 11-year-old son was attending university, so she had gotten his homework out of his backpack. As they would be crossing a very, very busy street, she would make sure that the boys were paying attention, and she would launch everything up into the air, into traffic. Now, Holly, to you and I, if something important to us is going in the traffic, we simply know, oh, that's gone. I'm not going to have that anymore. But to a 6-year-old boy, a 9-year-old boy, an 11-year-old boy, that's the most important things in their lives. Yeah. All they know is they are losing it, and they must run after it immediately, and they would instantly run into traffic to try to retrieve their items.
That's frightening.
Immediately thereafter, Natalia would simply tell us very coldly and very directly, I'm trying to kill the boys.
I want the world to know who did this. I have always heard that the courtroom is the last place you're going to get the truth. And has that ever been proven to be the truth in this case? Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. He took Big Daddy from our grandchildren, Ella, Addison, Olivia, Jax, and James, 3 of them who never got to know Gary. Scott, this is unforgivable. Scott, I have spent an entire life of loving and protecting you, but this I refuse to cover for you. My mother, your mom, begged me to take the blame for this. She said after she talked to you, after Gary died, that she knew you had done it. Her exact words were, "You are his mother. You have to take blame for this." And I told her no, that I couldn't. I still have 3 other children, grandchildren, and this is not a stolen credit card, a check, or a diamond ring that you've pawned, all of which you have done. I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th in your truck. You told me that you were checking on the fire to make sure that it wasn't going to get the woods on fire. You told me it was okay. I asked you a few weeks later why you were at that burn pile in your truck, and you told me that your dad had told you to clean up the extra wood that was by the barn. I told Hayes that I had seen Scott that morning coming from the burn pile. So, Hayes, where is that recording?
Mark, what do you got?
Listen, this one's interesting. I don't think we've ever seen anything like this in any of our shows. So if you know us, if you know our shows, you're in for a really good one here. Look, she's reading a statement, number one. So eyes are going to be down, eyes are going to be shaded quite a bit. And this is something prepared. So we might be able to think about exactly what she's saying because she's taken time, one would think, to write this one out. Now, what's happening in the body language? We've got some real action in the forehead here, I would say. We've got some real action happening in the chin boss there. So, and it feels at first glance here like some pretty good emotion. I mean, it sounds right and it looks right up here and it's looking right here. And then she does a direct accusation towards somebody.
I know Scott killed his father.
There is specific timings in the statement here. Now, against that, she does shade her eyes when the emotion comes, and she does cover her mouth there. But, you know, that against what's happening in the forehead, and she's going to shade her eyes because she's reading as well, and the chin, and this direct accusation and the specific timings, I mean, seems pretty good. She names the victims. She names the perpetrator in her mind here. Now, to the negative of this, there's a bit of an over-explanation in here as well, and a demand for evidence at the end. And there's real surprise, I would say, from, I think it's Scott, is the brother.
I know Scott killed his father.
Real surprise and subtle contempt in his face there, and a really nice cut-off gesture to somebody in the court, you know, which isn't subtle and concealed. It's not like something he's doing, you know, gently to somebody else. It's just like, come on, let's stop this. So, listen, I don't know about you guys, but I like some of the emotion in this, and it feels right and feels good. And at the same time, there's real surprise from the son here, and no trying to hide that this should stop. So, first video, I'm really interested in this. Chase, what do you got on this one?
I'm interested as well. This is a Fascinating. Just video here. She's socializing and pre-framing. So essentially what pre-framing is I'm presenting information to shape the way that you're going to view something that's coming later. So she's doing this to the message to show how the courtroom, being a place of untruth, is so widely recognized that she's always heard it. And he's looking on in absolute disbelief. And when somebody is genuinely surprised, their jaw drops automatically as part of the brain's quick reaction to something unexpected. This happens because there's a lot going on, but the muscles responsible for closing the jaw relax, while the others that help it open kind of just contract, and like everything comes together. So this often comes with raised eyebrows, widened eyes, and sometimes maybe like an audible gasp on occasion. But evolutionarily speaking, this reaction might have helped us to take in more air to prepare for action, or maybe heightened our senses to better assess some kind of a sudden situation. But socially, it's a clear universal signal to other people that we're caught off guard. So it makes it a very important tool for nonverbal communication. Since it's so instinctive, it's hard to fake convincingly. So to tell if somebody's surprised or genuine, look for those quick symmetrical movements that happen naturally and last only a second or two, unless the thing that's causing the surprise is continuing. She could be genuinely feeling this deep emotion talking about Scott coming out from the burn pile.
I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th.
So her talking about this little burn pit area could be producing some of these emotions, but she's indignant here, and she's showing genuine frustration. If she is guilty, which the court certainly believes so, there's got to be something going on. So there's a rehearsed narrative, and she's going through these motions to maybe cast more doubt about her guilt. She's suffering some type of pathology or a disorder that's causing some kind of delusion that's powerful enough to produce the behaviors that we're seeing here, like her looking directly at him while talking about his guilt, which is extremely uncommon in these situations like this. So if somebody's making a false claim, they are not likely to look like this at all unless they believe it, which is weird. So her reading this is not unusual, but her direct accusations very much are unusual while she's turning backwards or turning sideways to look at him. Even more unusual when it's family and not some stranger that's being accused. This is just bizarre. Scott, what do you think?
All right. Yeah, I agree with you, especially looking at her son saying all that, you know. And I think the technical term you're looking for, and then she's sort of lost in there, is called wacky cuckoo, I believe. Is what a lot of people in the technical world see that, you know, in the psychological world. I think that's what they call it. But see, for me, I'm gonna zero in on these facial expressions, because I don't think we're seeing true sadness or grief there. We're seeing all the things that make up the fake one. You know, we're seeing the brow come down here in the middle, which we can do, but we don't see the grief muscle. And then, like Mark was saying, we're seeing in that chin boss, but it's just because she's pulling her mouth down, and mine goes up when you do that. But we know it's not real, because listen to her voice as she's talking. We don't hear that. Her voice doesn't crackle the way it should when your throat is constricting, and that constricts your larynx, and your voice breaks up as you go along. It's too smooth in there. She's not taking those quick breaths. You take those little, like people do when they're really grieving, or they're really sad or upset or crying about something.
He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda.
We don't see any tears here. Her eyes aren't red. So many things are missing. She keeps sniffing, but she reminds me of what's his name when he was in the car and kept sniffing. One of Mark's favorite things, where the guy just, where Murdaugh was just sniffing, and there's nothing there. So a lot of this you can just feel it's not right. And I think mostly the women on here will see this and go, not automatically, because the way the female brain functions when it sees something that it knows isn't happening the way it should be happening. And when she talks about her son, Scott, if you don't listen to the sound, somebody could have said, hey, I just bought Donald Duck's old car. And that's the look he has on his face. He's like, what'd you do? That's the kind of look he has. Because he can't believe she's saying this. Apparently, this has come out of just like left field, out of nowhere. Nobody was ready for it. I agree with you, Mark. I think it's kind of her she's swinging for the fences here. It's a last-ditch effort to get to defend herself in here. But listen to how clean her voice gets and how clear it gets when it gets towards the end.
I told Hayes that I had seen Scott that morning coming from the burn pile. So, Hayes, where is that recording?
And fake doesn't stick when it comes to facial expressions, right? If she's sad, then that sadness should stay on there. But watch how it goes away. It's not morphing into another expression. It's just going away and she's just reading. Think about that and listen to it when we go through next time. But listen to how clean and clear her voice is. That's so important. The volume doesn't go way up. It doesn't go way down. We hear some fading facts here in a few minutes. Hear a couple of them in here. But there's not that dramatic change in volume that we should be hearing in there. But again, listen to it because we should be hearing that voice change where she can't quite get it out because her throat is constricting and her whole person should be tightening up and having a problem talking a little bit if she's trying to hold back the emotion of sadness and grief and anger the way she supposedly is. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah, we rarely disagree. I disagree with you guys about eye contact with Scott. She doesn't, except for one time when she says, I saw you coming from the burn pile. Only time I see her make eye contact. The other time she looks down when she's accusing him, but she doesn't look down when she's asking about a recorder or whatever else, or any other place she's making accusations. She has hard eye contact. There, she looks down at her notes. And I think part of this emotion is scripted. I think you're dead on, Chase, where you were talking about something she's rehearsed, something she's practiced. If you've ever done a eulogy for somebody you love and you read it at another time, it'll still bring up that emotion. So if the emotion is in the words and it's feeling, however, I think she comes across as melodramatic in quite a few places. And, my first note here is way back in the 1900s when I was in fourth grade, I had a teacher who would read to us all the time. And she read, I remember, like James and the Giant Peach or some other story, and she would have drama when she got to certain points that was more pronounced than real things. And I hear that when she's doing this court thing.
I have always heard that the courtroom is the last place you're going to get the truth. And has that ever been proven to be the truth in this case?
She's trying to set up, you listen to that melodrama that court is not the place to get the truth. We'll hear it as she works her way through this entire thing. She almost comes across, and guys, I didn't leave all the video in, but there's places where she starts to come across like she's Perry Mason trying to make a case or something. So really interesting. She's got a prepared script, all the same stuff you guys have already talked about. The crying looks real. Why, we can't really tell. If she has something scripted in, then there's a reason she would cry at that point. If she's rehearsed, if she's practiced, if she truly feels some pain when she gets to there. She does that kind of going down the well thing. Usually emotions overtake you. They don't slowly, and I think you said this as well, Chase and Scott, they don't slowly come up on you and then go away. They slowly come on you and go away. They don't just kind of boom, 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 kind of like Amber Heard. She does make a good hard eye contact when she said, my mom said that.
My mother, your mom, begged me to take the blame for this.
That's the time she makes really hard eye contact, and she's crowdsourcing that. Anytime it's her, she's not doing it as much. A couple of things in here, Mark. I love the one where he does he's waving it off, but I also love the bar fight look. To twist your head. Chase, you talk about exposing arteries, twisting your head and raising your neck. That right there is a bar fight look. Like, what? The timing of his disbelief is so spot on, it makes it really hard to believe that he believes what she's saying. Pay attention when she's accusing, whether she's looking at the person or not. That's all I got.
And the guy, his name is Hayes. The second guy she looks at, that's her other son. And when she says that, he looks like a pet bird when the phone rings.
I want the world to know who did this. I have always heard that the courtroom is the last place you're going to get the truth. And has that ever been proven to be the truth in this case? Not only did I not do this, I know who did. I know Scott killed his father. He took my husband, the father of Chris, Emily, and Amanda. He took Big Daddy from our grandchildren, Ella, Addison, Olivia, Jax, and James, 3 of them who never got to know Gary. Scott, this is unforgivable. Scott, I have spent an entire life of loving and protecting you, but this I refuse to cover for you. My mother, your mom, begged me to take the blame for this. She said after she talked to you, after Gary died, that she knew you had done it. Her exact words were, "You are his mother. You have to take blame for this." And I told her no, that I couldn't. I still have 3 other children, grandchildren, and this is not a stolen credit card, a check, or a diamond ring that you've pawned, all of which you have done. I saw you coming from that burn pile the morning of July the 5th in your truck. You told me that you were checking on the fire to make sure that it wasn't going to get the woods on fire. You told me it was okay. I asked you a few weeks later why you were at that burn pile in your truck. And you told me that your dad had told you to clean up the extra wood that was by the barn. I told Hayes that I had seen Scott that morning coming from the burn pile. So, Hayes, where is that recording?
Much like any parent separated from their child here on earth, and her face beams when she talks of them.
I've got a girl called Claire, and then a boy called Jude, and then another boy called Heath. And then Claire has married another, for want of another word, Humalian in their society, and his name's Gabriel. They obviously have grey names, but I had to give them some names. And she has a baby called Amelia. They look quite human, only small. So my daughter would be quite tiny. So that's not really my genes, that would be the grey genes. She looks like a normal woman, she's just got small boobs.
Well, Greg, what do you got?
Well, the weirdest out of all that, I see a disgust signal in the middle of all that.
They have grey names, but I had to give them some names.
Why disgust around I have to call them something? And I have to call them something. It's not like she just coined this phrase. I guarantee you this is something she's used before. Humalian. Her body's getting smaller and decreasing target size as she's telling her story. Her posture's shifting constantly. And it's just an outlandish tale is what I see. I don't, maybe there's trauma that generated it, but I'm progressively thinking it's an outlandish tale.
Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so that disgust gesture, I often see that as smelling the rat of your own lie sometimes. It's disgust at your poor performance of telling the story. It's like, oh, I'm so bad at this. It's your unconscious mind just going, you're lying. What are you doing? Like, why have you brought me here to do this? This is really annoying for me. Can we get the hell out of here? Yeah. So I think, there may be some elements of that, but look, again, like, I'm pretty smart. I'm lost in the story. I'm kind of lost. It's like the first name she says has an upward intonation, like she's saying, is that a good name?
Claire.
Do you buy that name? Is that all right? And then she must have got some signal back from the interviewer that says, yeah, we'll go with that. We'll go with that because the rest of the names are downward intonation.
Jude, and then another boy called Heath.
Like she goes, okay, you bought the first name. I'm giving you the second. I'm giving you the third. Yeah, and now, oh God, I've never gone this far. Hang on. I'm going to have to make some stuff up. Oh no, I hate this. I hate my job. I hate my job making. I think that's what happens.
I wonder if she asked her their names again, if she would remember what she said. She'd say, well, I made those up. They have gray names and they're,
That's exactly where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. No, it's cool. I think she's trying to blow past this too, because she's getting smaller. She's moving. She's totally guarding that neck and throat. Yeah. She's totally, it's like she's getting ready to be hit by something. She's totally making herself smaller. I think she's trying to get past this because, again, I don't think this part of it, it may be in her book or whatever, but I don't think she was ready for that. And I think that thing about she had being the grandmother, she hasn't said that yet, but when she says she had a kid too or whatever, I think that just jumped out. I think as she's trying to add her qualifiers to it to make it more believable, it's just, and she had a kid.
And she has a baby called Amelia.
Look at her. She's jumping she's squishing all over the place. She can't sit still. So I think that kind of just jumped out. And she's like, oh, and now what? Move along, stupid, move along. I think that's what her other part of her brain is saying, trying to get her out of the mess. We've seen that. Everybody's seen. We've all seen that.
Yep. They're wiggling to get out of the chair, looking for the door. Yep.
Yeah. Chase, what do you got?
Totally agree with you. I was watching this earlier today, and I saw the same behavior. That was something like, they're buying this. I'm going to throw in an extra detail this time. Yeah. And you heard her from the beginning. There's confirmation glances.
The request for approval, Greg calls it.
Yeah. And when they say she beamed when she mentioned her children, her face lit up.
And her face beams when she talks of them.
That didn't happen.
No.
True facial expressions fade off of the face. False facial expressions, we've got 4 of the top in the world here. False facial expressions stop. They show up and they disappear.
Because there's no energy behind keeping Ekman talks about that, how there's nothing keeping those things stuck there. It's just there and then gone. I think you're right, Chase. I think that's what's going on there. And she's just trying to blow right past it as she's slipping down the hill, trying to catch herself. Greg, what do you got? Anything else?
All of that movement, all of that shrinking, that's not normal posturing. If you talk about your children, you're proud. You're talking about your children. You uncover your throat. It's one of those things, one of those moments of pride. If I ask you about your kids, everyone on here would raise your chin as you talk, not slump away like a dog in a fight, right, with your chin over your throat.
There's one more thing that's not here anywhere pretty much, is when we talk about truthful things that are emotional or real or fun or sad, our eye muscles move as we're saying the words. If I'm talking about my kids, I'm going to say, I've got 2 kids, and you're going to see the small movements in the eye muscles. You'll see squinting and facial expressions that match it. She's obviously good at narrating with her body. She says, I'm in this big round room, and then nothing else is narrated for the rest of the thing. And she grabs the crib and looks over the crib.
Right, yeah.
It doesn't narrate anything else.
She has told that story so many times, she's got it down to a pantomime kind of thing. But when she gets to a hard question about how many kids she has and what their names are, and now she's got to kind of reach back and pull it out.
That's should have gone back to that.
She doesn't have any of that kind of stuff going.
Yeah, she should have gone. She should have asked, what's that kid's name? What's the
I would
kid's
love
name?
that. It was, you could see the deer in the headlights.
Yeah. See, that's our TV show right there. Doing this.
Let us know what are their grade names. We would love to hear those.
Yeah, I would love to hear that because she's going to make up some slee stack kind of sounding stuff.
Then all she's got to do is say, wait a minute, I'm going to write those down. What were they again? And then she's like,
you wouldn't be able to pronounce them. I can hear her coming out, because it's
that's good. You're right.
It's an age-old one,
That way.
Well, I think there's a huge difference as well between the first names that she comes up with and then the last one, which is Gabriel.
Claire has married another, for want of another word, Humalian in their society, and his name's Gabriel.
Which is, obviously has a biblical connotation to it. My guess is that comes right from her unconscious and the Christian upbringing. That she grabs onto something iconic, whereas the other names are kind of quite ordinary. They're not so extraordinary. And then suddenly it's like, and then they named one after an angel.
Yeah, the biggie.
Yeah.
So.
Much like any parent separated from their child here on earth, and her face beams when she talks of them.
I've got a girl called Claire, and then a boy called Jude, and then another boy called Heath. And then Claire has married another, for want of another word, Humalian in their society, and his name's Gabriel. They obviously have grey names, but I had to give them some names. And she has a baby called Amelia. They look quite human, only small. So my daughter would be quite tiny. So that's not really my genes, that would be the grey genes. She looks like a normal woman, she's just got small boobs.
If you find another great love, or if Will finds another great love.
There's no finding another great love, and I think that's the point. It's like we are in a place now that we are in a deep healing space, and we are really concentrating on healing the relationship between us.
So it may not be the divorce on paper anymore?
There's no divorce on paper.
I mean, not on paper. There might not be a divorce in theory anymore?
Yeah, no, we really have been working hard.
Oh.
See?
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. We might
I was trying to think.
Well, wait.
I totally missed that on the whole. That's the whole thing.
So wait. Just so I'm 100% clear, you were divorced, not on paper, but now we might be a point where we're back together.
We are working very hard at bringing our bringing our relationship together.
Back to a marriage again.
Back to a life partnership. Yes, because here's the thing about husband-wife marriage for me, my healing process. I came into that with very specific ideas, right? Very specific ideas that were blocks to me just seeing Will as who he is. He can't be this perfect, idealized husband.
Yes, of course.
I have to be able to accept him for the human that he is. He accepts me for the human that I am, and we want to love each other there.
Okay, so you might live in the same house and have the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
that's the only part. That's the only part in the special that I felt like got lost.
Well, guess what? It is found. We found it today. We found it today. Jada, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
All right, Chase, what do you got?
I want to know what y'all think, but if Stanley Kubrick was still alive, this looks like a scene from some dystopian candy shop where the employees are in there with this colors and the white turtleneck and the white couch. It looks like Stanley Kubrick to me. I'll let y'all figure that out or answer that. One thing you're seeing a lot of is this, and this is commonly referred to as a stop gesture, where the fingers are all the way extended. And in your history, if you've ever tried to talk someone out of doing something or try to get someone to stop doing something, your fingers extend. Even if your hand is in your pocket, down at your side, in your purse, we naturally kind of do this to stop somebody from doing something. When she says relationship between us.
Healing the relationship between us.
So
it's a strong chin boss movement right there. She says he can't be perfect.
He can't be this perfect, idealized husband.
Yes, of course.
I have to be able to accept him for the human that he is.
And there's no mention of her being imperfect. She doesn't mention her imperfection at all, just her being a human being.
He accepts me for the human that I am.
And right at the moment that she says, Hoda says you can live in the same house.
So you might live in the same house and have the same.
Yeah.
There's pure disgust. And if you just think of the facial expression of disgust, everything kind of squeezes in toward the middle a little bit. You imagine smelling a rotten jug of milk. And then her eyes close all the way when she says, yeah. About living in the same house. That had some huge red flags for me. Y'all probably picked up on even more. Scott, what'd you see?
Here we're seeing this pretty much the same gestures, the same illustrators. We're seeing the same body language we're seeing in the following videos in a different interview that we're seeing here, except for they're not as animated. There are some spots in the other ones where she's more animated, but in this one, I agree with you, Chase. It seems so fake. I mean, it is because it's TV. Nobody has a couch like that at home. No, you wouldn't talk that way at home. I don't anyway. I know you guys don't talk that way. So the whole thing seems a little bit odd, but she falls back into, and watch from now on in the other videos, as she falls into this thing where she starts, like you were saying, using her hand, But she starts this teaching mode thing where she starts telling you about what's happening and what she's learned and all these wonderful things that have happened and how she's in control of it. Everything looks as it should if you're in that world, if you're in the TV world and you're on TV and you're an actress and or an actor, I don't know what they call them these days, and you're an actor and you're trying to be this person. You've shown everyone you are and trying to stay in that character. I think everything looks the way it should, especially since she's following that protocol she always follows of trying to be in charge of what's happening and telling you what's happening and teaching you something as you go along. Greg, what do you got?
Yeah. She almost Gollumed up the wrong answer there. I love that. When she asked her, can you live together? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the oddest answer of all of the things she does. But let's leave it at that and go backward and look at everything else. Mark, you and I talked last week about glass painting is what I call it. And we were saying maybe we come up with a collective name for it. But she glass paints. And by that, I mean, she is there to deliver a package of goods that is packaged for consumption by that person. That takes a hell of a lot of practice to be good at, which is a bad sign that somebody's being that casual and that selective with the way they deliver information. Chase, you have a security clearance, or you did when you were active military. It's like the first time you walk up and you're talking to somebody about something you know, and you can't talk about the topic in detail because you know something that they might learn. And they're fishing and poking. They don't know that you know this thing, but you do. And so you're so careful with it. You do your best to avoid it at every turn, and you hold them off at a distance. That's what she's doing here with the way she uses her words. I love the body language in this one because there's a whole lot of mechanical stuff going on here. When Hoda asked the question,
if you find another great love, or if Will finds another great love,
look at her lower teeth get exposed. That's anger. Her eyes are narrowed. And then it's followed by some asymmetry in the left side of her face or contempt as she starts to describe what this is. This is not what that is. Her tone says everything to me. Listen to that shift in tone.
Yeah, no, we really have been working hard.
Oh.
See?
Okay. Well, I didn't know that. We might
I was trying to think.
Well,
I totally missed that on the whole. That's the whole thing.
So wait.
It's not an angry tone. It's a patronizing tone. It's very strong, in my opinion. And then you look at those elongated key points as she elongates the vowels in the words she's trying to drive. And I was wondering, Chase, I was thinking is because she does some false cognates in other places. I've never seen anybody capable of controlling their chin, so I don't think it is. But it's in an odd kind of abandoned place. And that left eye, that data intake eye in her, as narrow as it can be in this situation. And when she says yes,
yeah,
her head bobbles. I got a 1958 Impala. I think a jaded doll would look really good on top of the dash. Just doing that look like something from the 1950s. None of it looks real. None of it looks believable. And it looks like she came, to your point, packaged as some person to fit into the situation and to give the details. And all this bubbly over the top about this relationship and avoiding outright the question about whether they're going to move in together or not. Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, so I would call this Jada-splaining going on to Hoda. It is very forceful. It is quite condescending, I think. Also, it kind of switches codes. You've got this first splaining part where she's very, very forceful and direct. And then she tries to, I think, ameliorate that a little bit with something more kind of colloquial to the two of them, something more banterish. The pitch starts, going right up there. And I think she's trying to, level out how explaining she's doing. But as an explainer, she's, to my understanding, she's come on to redress something that wasn't fully understood the first time around. I'm no clearer as to what on earth is going on here. It's not a good explainer. The cynic inside of me would suggest it's like one of those emails you get from a company that's marketing when it says in the title, we messed up. We got something wrong. But all they're trying to do is get another eye shot at you to send you through their link. It feels the same to me that the cynic inside me would go, you're correcting a mistake that you don't think was a mistake because you're getting another shot at pitching your book. Listen, no problem. I don't mind people who send me those emails to go, we messed up. I kind of know what you're doing. And so I kind of feel like I know what's happening here, which is a little bit disappointing. Yeah, I've no doubt they're not going to live in the same house.
So you might live in the same house and have the same.
Yeah.
You know, there's that inflection there. There's the disgust that we see there. There's even a bit of a peach snort beforehand as well to see Hoda out of that territory. She spins. It's very political what's happening there. She tries to reframe a lot of the ideas that are going on.
Back to a marriage again.
Back to a life partnership. Yes.
I think she finds it very hard to explain her feelings in very literal form of who will do what and where and what things actually tangibly are and look and feel like. And she goes for concepts that we're not allowed to touch and we're not allowed to question those concepts. She does it here, and we'll see that going on. Interesting start of that, and Chase with you're right, with all that white against white. It really is the savior look. Will Smith did the same in one of his videos by literally having a white light behind him in a halo. It was interestingly done. So the savior has shown up, and I think that's something of her idea that she is a spiritual master of some sort, and I think that's the icon she's now looking to push, which is tricky because she maybe doesn't have some of the self-knowledge that you would probably think somebody should have in order to fit that category.
If you find another great love, or if Will finds another great love.
There's no finding another great love, and I think that's the point. It's like we are in a place now that we are in a deep healing space, and we are really concentrating on healing the relationship between us.
So it may not be the divorce on paper anymore?
There's no divorce on paper.
I mean, not on paper. There might not be a divorce in theory anymore?
Yeah, no, we really have been working hard.
Oh.
See?
Okay. Well, I didn't know that.
We might I was trying to think. Well, wait. Totally missed that on the whole. That's the whole thing.
So wait, just so I'm 100% clear. You were divorced, not on paper, but now we might be at a point where we're back together.
We are working very hard at bringing our relationship together.
Back to a marriage again.
Back to a life partnership. Yes, because here's the thing about husband-wife marriage for me, my healing process. I came into that with very specific ideas, right? Very specific ideas that were blocks to me just seeing Will as who he is. He can't be this perfect, idealized husband.
Yes, of course.
I have to be able to accept him for the human that he is. He accepts me for the human that I am, and we want to love each other there.
Okay, so you might like live in the same house and have the same.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
that's the only part. That's the only part in the special that I felt like got lost.
Well, guess what? It is found. We found it today. We found it today. Jada, thank you so much. I really appreciate your.
She was hiding knives in our couches. She was talking about she was going to kill family members. She's standing in the middle of the room and she would say, "I'm waiting for the right time." She poisoned people. She put chemicals in the coffee.
Did any of that happen?
No. She said that I hid knives on top of the fridge, under the fridge, in the cabinets, even on her office desk.
How did you get something on top of the refrigerator?
I can't even reach it. Not even with a chair, I couldn't reach it.
You can't get to the top of the refrigerator, right?
No, I can't.
You were cleaning.
Yes.
You're helping her clean.
Yes.
And she says you sprayed bleach in her coffee.
It was lemon pledge for tables.
And she actually has footage of you doing that.
So we had missed a spot. So what I did was I scooted the chair over so I could get up there, and I scooted her coffee back so I could grab the thing because it was in front of it. So I scooted it back and I grabbed it. She came out and was like, "What are you doing?" And then she claimed that I tried to spray it in her coffee. You could look in her coffee. There was nothing.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
So interesting. I find the initial no very direct, very clear. Seems like a good denial to me. I'm willing to have my mind changed on it, but seems like a really good denial. Now, the rest of this whole sequence for me is cut up so much that I find it hard to follow the story. Listen, I understand why. Like anything, you're having to build suspense in there, and if they deliver to the audience all of what somebody says, we go, oh, I see, oh, I get it. Well, then that's okay. So we're kind of analyzed something which has been built to hold an audience for an hour and get us to watch the adverts in between. Okay, that's the nature of TV, to get us to watch the adverts in between. Great content, by the way, but it has to have suspense built into it. So it has to take away some of the elements. For me, this clip, though there's a good initial denial, it's too cut up for me to really make any analysis and judgment on. But others may have had a good stab at it, and that's good. I'm all for that. Scott, what do you got on this one?
When she's confronted with what would be a criminal act, poisoning somebody, she gets still again. There's not a whole lot going on there. She gets louder, and her cadence speeds up a little bit, and it slows down a little bit. It speeds up a little bit. I think there's a lot of thinking going on in there. And here's another red flag. Somebody's accusing her of poisoning them, So I don't know. Like I said today, mine going to be super short. So that one's super short. Chase, what do you got?
This thing is going, as Mark would say, just bonkers pretty fast. If there's one thing that indicates somebody is truly going off the rails like this, it's when there is a pattern. And if there's one thing that really shows that the pattern is true, it's when the pattern is witnessed by unconnected people that are not connected to each other. So as she's watching the video, there's one thing that stood out. She's watching this woman say this about her. There's no anger. There's no anger. And a person, an average or let's say reasonable person with a normal limbic system will respond with either collapse or anger when this sort of thing happens. And the woman on the video claiming all of this is genuine, she has eye accessing all over while she's trying to recall these details. Lots of emotional accessing, genuine and perfectly timed gestures, pauses, and natural fluctuation in the tone and pitch of her voice. Notice there is no direct denial about the coffee.
She says you sprayed bleach in her coffee.
It was lemon pledge for tables.
The story that she tells is vague and full of detail, but doesn't really talk about specifically what she was doing.
She actually has footage of you doing that.
So we had missed a spot. So what I did was I scooted the chair over so I could get up there, and I scooted her coffee back so I could grab the thing because it was in front of it. So I scooted it back and I grabbed it. She came out and was like, "What are you doing?"
And it doesn't make a denial about putting it into the coffee or the intent to do so. Greg?
Yeah, I think here we're going to get into this. Anytime you're talking to two people, somewhere in the middle is usually where the truth is. And I think we're going to see a lot of it here. Let's start off by talking about Christine, who's the mother. First of all, she is a well-known author who wrote a book called A Spark. She had raised a child on the spectrum who is a math prodigy and went to university at 14, I think 14 or 15, and has been in front of a camera a lot. So she's much better in front of a camera than most folks you would imagine. She uses words like standing over, running into. We're going to hear those words used to talk about this person who is quite not capable of running or standing over people. And those words, usually, I listen to word patterns to say, what kind of person is this? And by that, I mean, how do they typically communicate? Do they speak in hyperbole? Do they speak in understated ways? And I think we are going to see a pattern of hyperbole in the way they talk. So is spraying pledge in your coffee poison, or is it revenge? Don't know. It depends on you as to how you perceive that, how you define it. In a household where that's considered poisoning, standing over may be something different too. So just think about that. And now we got to get back to culture shock and where this is. So one person's poison is another person's household cleaner. One person's arm breaking is another kid's wrestling. That can be a really interesting thing when you're moving from house to house. Not taking everything away from her. Here's the interesting red flag for me from Natalia. In the last one where they're talking about she was more mature than her years, and she's older than she was claiming. No movement, no facial expression, nothing. She just sat there. In this one, while she's listening to her tell the story, there's an exaggerated facial expression. While she's listening to an accusation, and I think it's because she knew that this stuff was going to come up, because this stuff is probably true. Now, whether she went in and said, I'm going to kill you, or took a knife and hid it somewhere, it was on top of the refrigerator, probably not. But if a kid is ruckus and has no other way to control their environment, especially people who have limited physical means, they may use words in a very big way. Younger children especially can be tantrum throwers and just go, you guys raise kids, you know, your kid could throw a tantrum over something that has nothing to do with what's going on. So especially when she's discussing these very topics that she knows is going to come up and seeing her facial expression, it makes that jump off the plate to me. And she looks appropriately angry with the narrowing and muting of the mouth when she's talking about the refrigerator.
You can't get to the top of the refrigerator, right?
No, I can't.
Look, this is another marker for me that makes me think the truth is somewhere in the middle. She might have been trying to poison or taking knives to kill them. She might have said, I'm going to kill you. Who knows? But somewhere in the middle of all this dramatic range is probably where we're going to find the truth.
She was hiding knives in our couches. She was talking about she was going to kill family members. She's standing in the middle of the room and she would say, I'm waiting for the right time. She poisoned people. She put chemicals on the coffee.
Did any of that happen?
No. She said that I hid knives on top of the fridge, under the fridge, in the cabinets, even on her office desk.
How did you get something on top of the refrigerator?
I can't even reach it. Not even with a chair, I couldn't reach it.
You can't get to the top of the refrigerator, right?
No, I can't.
You were cleaning.
Yes.
You're helping her clean.
Yes.
And she says you sprayed bleach in her coffee.
It was lemon pledge for tables.
And she actually has footage of you doing that.
So we had missed a spot. So what I did was I scooted the chair over so I could get up there, and I scooted her coffee back so I could grab the thing because it was in front of it. So I scooted it back and I grabbed it. She came out and was like, what are you doing? And then she claimed that I tried to spray it in her coffee. You could look in her coffee. There was nothing.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
Why?
We didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to cause more harm than good, and that if he was now with his person, that surely that's enough. Why go that far when you don't necessarily need to? We wanted him to be happy, and we saw how happy he was with her. So at the time, it was okay.
You wrote that she started a campaign in the British press to pave the way for a marriage, and you wrote, I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy.
Mm-hmm.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her dangerous?
That made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press. And there was open willingness on both sides to trade of information. And with a family built on hierarchy, and with her on the way to being Queen Consort, there was going to be people or bodies left in the street because of that.
Harry says over the years he was one of those bodies. He accuses Camilla and even his father at times of using him or William to get better tabloid coverage for themselves. Prince Harry writes, Camilla, quote, sacrificed me on her personal PR altar.
If you are led to believe as a member of the family that being on the front page, having positive headlines, positive stories written about you is going to improve your reputation or increase the chances of you being accepted as monarch by the British public, then that's what you're going to do.
All right, Mark, what do you got?
Yeah, his person.
With his person.
And then we see contempt there. He's talking about Charles's new wife, Camilla. And there's a sniff here which is out of the baseline. His sniffs are dried up, I think, because of the pseudoepinephrine that was most likely going on there. But here we get a sniff again. I think it's dismissal, a sniff of dismissal. Because often we say, well, that's nothing to sniff at. That's nothing to dismiss. So I think that the sniff there is he's dismissing the idea of Camilla marrying his father. So it fits the words that he's saying there. I love the imagery here. Again, the paralanguage here.
There was going to be people or bodies left in the street because of that.
Harry says over the years, he was one of those bodies.
We know from decent societies that when you go to war, one of the things that you're allowed to do is collect your dead. Or you go and collect your dead. You do not leave your dead in the streets. And so by him saying, hey, I'm one of the bodies left in the streets, basically he's saying this was subhuman, what was going on here. And it continues as well, because he talks about Camilla. The image that they put with this, the interview makers put with this, is a very cold, asymmetrical picture of Camilla. So the interview is really helping him out here, portray her as cold, asymmetrical, along with his dehumanizing imagery there. And he finishes it off with an image of being sacrificed on the altar.
Prince Harry writes, Camilla, quote, sacrificed me on her personal PR altar.
An image of human sacrifice, of almost satanic abuse that went on around him. Like, fantastic work, Harry. You can't write this stuff, but it certainly happens in your head. Greg, what do you got on this one?
Yeah, Mark, I think that's more than a sniff. I think it's a snort of derision. I think he rolls that lip up, exposes his tooth, and does that all at the same time. That's the most we've seen out of this guy the entire time. I think it's more than just a sniff. I think it's a powerful condemning of Camilla. I had hope for him in this one. He starts off, this is the single clearest statement he's made when he starts talking about her. He's actually answering detailed questions.
We didn't think it was necessary.
I'm like, why now? Well, clearly because he has something to say about her. Then when he says,
we thought that it was going to cause more harm than good.
He might have said the same thing about you marrying your wife. That's not how life works. You don't get to condemn the other guy. Given that he's going to be king, that is much more complex, and I understand all that. So what's the difference? No, the dad can't do this, but I can. When he does that absolute disdain and contempt and snort of derision, you can't miss that. And that, they don't have anything going on. Now, here's the interesting piece where it starts to fall apart. Number one, I'll go back and say, hey, I have something in common with him other than red hair. We use our hands a lot in the same kind of gestures as we're speaking. Maybe it's a ginger thing. As you watch him, up at the time, and it was okay, does a single shoulder shrug.
At the time, it was okay.
And he then stops answering complex questions.
You wrote, I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy. Mm-hmm. How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
If I was saying Camilla did this to me, I would give you examples of that. Look, she did this to me. She threw me under a bus this way. She had my father do this. Instead, he goes back to your point, Chase. He talks in these simple, open-ended kind of, oh, she's just a monster. She's just a monster. Well, what kind of monster is she? I want to know that. When I hear this, I would be all over him and climbing on him to get him to answer those questions. Here's the problem. He's a believer. He's a believer in what he's doing. I don't think he's lying. I think he's a believer in what he's doing. So all that cognitive dissonance just disappears for him. He can drink it like cooking oil. Chase, what do you got?
Yeah, I love it. Let's look at the narrative here.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
So somebody with the need to rehabilitate their image is dangerous.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her dangerous.
That made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press.
And it's more dangerous because they know people in the press. And that's literally this video. And I think at this point, they have to be doing this on purpose. There is no way they can't see this is just him looking into a mirror at this point. There's no possible way they can't see this. And at the end of this clip, I think it gets better with him saying, and I'm paraphrasing, if you believe the media is going to boost your reputation and earn you power, that's what you're going to do.
If you are led to believe as a member of the family that being on the front page, having positive headlines, positive stories written about you is going to improve your reputation or increase the chances of you being accepted as monarch by the British public, then that's what you're going to do.
I think that's literally a mirror. That's all I got. Scott?
All right. So check this out. He and his brother talk to his dad and say, look, don't marry her.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
He thinks it's okay for him to tell somebody not to marry somebody and not to be into their person or their wife. But what he's complaining about is when they're doing it to him, right? Because he said, he told his dad, we're not into her. We don't want you to marry her. And his dad and his brother and his family said, look, man, this probably isn't the girl for you, or the woman for you, however you want to say it. I think that says so much. Another thing, when he says...
Prince Harry writes, Camilla, quote, sacrificed me on her personal PR altar.
Again, he doesn't talk like that. When has he brought religion up before? I mean, granted, again, we all know when we're writing something, we've all written books, you write so it sounds like you're a lot smarter and all that. I don't think he has the capacity to think along those lines or to say something along those lines. And to see that the juxtaposition of where he's down here, she's doing this to him, but it's like she's sacrificing him on her altar of public relation. Come on. No, he doesn't think like that. He didn't say that. And I think what's going on here from a body language perspective, he's speaking really strong. Again, his tone is really tight and round. And his cadence is clipping right along. He's ready for this one. This is almost a rehearsed answer. I think, and the sniffs, as far as the sniffs go, they quit a while back. Remember, he quit sniffing. So I think you guys are right on that. I think that sniff. I think you guys nailed that right there. His movements have gotten closer to his torso. You know, they're going out, but his elbows aren't going out as far. They go out some, but not as far as they've been going out. This is all because he's thinking about what he's going to say. That's the impression I have. He knows, he's got the concept of what he's going to say. Not that he's rehearsed this word for word, but he's ready for this answer. He's ready to go for it. And again, we all know he had a ghostwriter, but I don't think he's read this book. I don't think he's gotten a look at it yet, because he wouldn't talk this way. He'd say, hang on, man, I don't talk that way. Unless he's so simple, he would go, wow, this is really making me look smart, and not being able to put together that it doesn't sound like him at all. Not even a little bit. All right, we good?
Yeah.
Oh, Greg, that was a hard one, man. Yeah, Mark, but I'm going to give it to you, Mark. I'm going to
distribute that. I think I'm going to distribute that. Normally I would take it, but I'm going to distribute that. I'm going to have a moment of unique magnanimity around that and distribute it. It was just beautiful teamwork.
You're such a
obviously it's mine. I mean, obviously, but
all right, that's very kind of you.
She was the villain. She was the third person in the marriage. She needed to rehabilitate her image.
You and your brother both directly asked your dad not to marry Camilla.
Yes.
Why?
We didn't think it was necessary. We thought that it was going to cause more harm than good, and that if he was now with his person, that surely that's enough. Why go that far when you don't necessarily need to? We wanted him to be happy, and we saw how happy he was with her. So at the time, it was okay.
You wrote that she started a campaign in the British press to pave the way for a marriage, and you wrote, I even wanted Camilla to be happy. Maybe she'd be less dangerous if she was happy.
Mm-hmm.
How was she dangerous?
Because of the need for her to rehabilitate her image.
That made her dangerous?
That made her dangerous because of the connections that she was forging within the British press. And there was open willingness on both sides to trade of information. And with a family built on hierarchy, and with her on the way to being queen consort, there was going to be people or bodies left in the street because of that.
Harry says over the years he was one of those bodies. He accuses Camilla and even his father at times of using him or William to get better tabloid coverage for themselves. Prince Harry writes, Camilla, quote, sacrificed me on her personal PR altar.
If you are led to believe as a member of the family that being on the front page, having positive headlines, positive stories written about you is going to improve your reputation or increase the chances of you being accepted as monarch by the British public, then that's what you're going to do.
All right, fellas, I think this is another good one, and we'll see you next time.